everyone, it's Elaine again. I wanted to come back and make a part 2, leaving the Iglesia ni Cristo or the INC. I did make this video prior a couple days ago, but I took it down because I wanted to add more information and also share my story as well. I got a lot of feedback from the first video, so I wanted to also just share my story because I didn't divulge that information in the very first video of leaving the INC or the Iglesia ni Cristo. So I just want to make a disclaimer here. I am speaking from a trauma-informed educational lens, and I am highlighting coercive, manipulative, harmful, unhealthy practices that exist within the Iglesia ni Cristo or the INC. The coercive practices that I'm speaking of aren't exclusive to the Iglesia ni Cristo. They can exist within any type of fundamentalist Christian religion, any type of cult-like religion. And abuse can exist anywhere. It can exist in a church, it can exist in a school, it can exist in a marriage, it can exist in a friendship. Just because a religious institution exists doesn't mean that abuse doesn't happen, because it does happen. So I don't want to sugarcoat things, and a lot of people will say, oh, it's in the Bible, so that means it's, God says it's in the Bible, but it doesn't mean the practice is healthy. It doesn't mean abuse doesn't exist. It happens, even if it's in the Bible. So I don't want to sweep things under the rug and just brush it aside and say, hey, this stuff doesn't happen, because it needs to be brought to light and it needs to be discussed so that people will stop suffering and that people will stop hurting, and that it can lessen depression, it can lessen anxiety, it can prevent families from being torn apart. And that's traumatic when families are torn apart. It does something to your nervous system, it does something to your mind, it does something to your heart, it does something to your body. If you don't know what trauma-informed means, I would suggest researching what trauma-informed means, because trauma basically is anything that is a shock to your nervous system that causes you to feel what can cause a lot of things, but basically it's a shock to your nervous system, and it can have a negative impact on your mental health, your physical health, and your overall well-being. So with that being said, I want to just reiterate, I am highlighting negative, coercive, unhealthy practices that exist within a church, high control religion like the INC or the Iglesia ni Cristo. So one of these practices that I've encountered is like shunning people, excommunicating people in a very public manner. So that is like expelling members in front of the whole audience, in front of the whole congregation. And this practice is harmful for a lot of reasons. It causes anxiety, it can cause depression, it's shameful, it's a manipulation tactic, it's controlling, and it's a way to, it's basically like a fear tactic, and a way to punish and like shame an individual or a family. Like if you think about someone being expelled like at school, they're not, like the principal's not going in front of the whole school and saying, we're expelling Marcus Galbraith for smoking marijuana. We're expelling you. No one, I just want to say that practice is very, very psychologically harmful for someone. And it can cause a lot of mental health issues. And someone might say, well, it's in the Bible, but that doesn't mean it's healthy. It doesn't mean that it is a practice that is not going to have a negative impact on someone. because it does. It's and if you don't really believe in mental illness exists. Anxiety and depression exists, and those type of practices can have that effect on someone, because at the core root of it, like, you're like shunning them, and shunning can cause a lot of harm on someone. It's very comparable to bullying someone. So that's a very harmful coercive practice. Another one I would say is punishing family members if someone, like the child, for instance, marries a non-member. Okay, so they strip away the title of the parent, whatever title they have, and then what that happens to the child in most cases, they feel shame, they feel guilt, and they feel like, oh, I'm letting my parents down. And then the parents might feel depressed too, because they're what they have known to practice for so long as a deacon or deaconess is stripped away from them. So the whole family and the whole unit gets punished, and that causes a rift. It can tear apart families. It can cause dysfunction within the family unit. And you might say, well, in the Bible, this and that, but it doesn't mean that it's a healthy practice for the family. Like, why should the family be punished just because someone wants to love another human being? We are all humans. We want to feel loved. So I think that's another very, very harmful, controlling practice that exists within the Iglesia ni Cristo. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that just because you're religious means that abuse doesn't exist, or harmful and unhealthy practices don't exist within the Iglesia ni Cristo. Like, this isn't exclusive just to the Iglesia ni Cristo. There are other religions very similar to the Iglesia ni Cristo. These same practices are happening, and it's not healthy, and it's very, very psychologically damaging. So that's what I wanted to highlight. And as a result, those are examples of religious trauma. Those are examples of religious abuse. Okay, so I want to share a little bit of my story. I'll keep it short, but basically, when I was 19, I fell in love. And I'll show you guys a picture. I know you can't really see it that well, but I was 19. We were kindergarten classmates, and then we reconnected and fell in love. He was Catholic. I was part of the INC still at that time. And I got a lot of backlash from my family members, and I was abused physically and psychologically and mentally, not only by my family members, but the church, for loving someone. I just want to say that the person that I fell in love with came from a really good family, a very strong unit, a very strong family. So he was raised really well. And he showed me what real love was. And I think I attribute that to how he was raised, and he was Catholic. Okay. So what I wanted to say about that was, my family members loved him. My friends loved him because of how much of a beautiful soul he was. And this is one thing that and you might say, oh, you just left the church because he was because, you know, that's how selfish of you. Like, no, he was a beautiful human being, first of all, and there's nothing wrong with someone loving someone at the core root of it. That's a human need. Okay, so anyway, one day I was driving home with one of my family members, and we were coming home from a sermon, or sorry, I should say lesson. Sorry, lesson. And basically the lesson was about not dating a non-member, and if you date a non-member, you're going to go to hell, and you're, you know, same old spiel. And then my family member was like, "Oh, did you hear the lesson? Like, did you listen?" And I was like, "Yeah, I heard the lesson. I listened, but I don't think there's anything wrong. Like, why should I, why would I go to hell just for loving someone?" And then I said, "I'm not gonna force him to convert for me. He has his own faith. Why would I force him to do that?" Basically, it turned into a huge argument with his family member, and then I got slapped across the face. Yeah, I got slapped across the face for it. I was like 19. And keep in mind, like as a 19-year-old, your mind, your brain is still developing. Your brain doesn't fully develop until like 25 years old. So you're experiencing like all these new sensations, you're experiencing like life, and you're still trying to learn things, right? So at that age, like your brain is still very sponge-like and malleable. So I was very conflicted, but at the same time, like I'm such a loving person that my love for my partner at that time and just love in general for everybody was so strong that I didn't let the messages of the church like super take hold of me. Um, but anyway, yeah, so when I got slapped across the face, I was like shocked. And then I got left on the side of the road alone. And I had to call a friend to pick me up because that family member left me on the side of the road. I still remember it. I mean, it's been such a long time. I'm 33 now, and that happened when I was like 19, but that's the type of stuff I'm talking about. Is like when the church, like the Iglesia Cristo, has these types of messages and these types of practices, that abuse happens within the family. They're destroying families. You're causing trauma to people and their nervous systems, and it's really sad and devastating. And I really hope people can kind of do their research on the impact it can have on your body and your nervous system and your mind and your soul and your heart. I was depressed, and I couldn't go to the ministers and be like, "Hi, I'm depressed. Can you help me?" Because they would just invalidate me and say I was wrong. There's no therapists in the church, there's no counselors in the church. And if there was, they're biased towards their own faith. And they're going to tell me that I'm wrong anyway. So what I'm trying to say is, I know that there are people experiencing this right now, and if you are, I'm so sorry that you're experiencing this, but I just want to tell you something. You're not wrong. You're human, and if you fall in love with a non-member, or if you are gay, or if you are binary, or no, sorry, not non-binary, if you're part of the LGBTQ community, you're not wrong for questioning. You're human. I want to say that again. You're not wrong for questioning. You're human. You're beautiful as you are. Okay. I want to end on that note because I think it's so important to spread messages of love and not hate in these times where there's so much hate and there's so much control and there's so much manipulation happening within religious institutions like the Iglesia Cristo. I want to infuse love and warmth and tell you that you're not weird and there's nothing wrong with you, and I hear you and I see you and your thoughts are valid. Okay? So I just want to end on that note because when I was 19 years old and I was getting slapped across the face and ministers were in my ear almost every sermon telling me I'm going to go to hell because I'm loving someone, no one was there for me. I had to figure it out all on my own. And it was really painful. So I just want to let you know that I'm here for you if you're experiencing this right now. Even though I'm not meeting you and we're not face to face, like I'm glad that this platform, YouTube, exists so that I can let you know that there's nothing wrong with you and you deserve to be loved and you deserve not to be abused. Okay. I'm going to leave some resources down below for you if you would like to kind of explore and learn about trauma, learn about religious abuse, learn about religious trauma and how certain coercive practices that exist within a religious institution can be harmful to someone and their physical and mental health. All right, I don't want to make this video too long. This is what I wanted to say, and I hope if it resonates with you, you can take away something from it as an educational tool, as a source of hope. And yeah, I will end here. And my dog says bye.